Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kamerie Gibson show, where we talk about transforming our pain into power. And today I have a special guest with me here today. He goes by the name of Z. Z, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience for me, please.
Yes. Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm happy to be here. My name is Z. I'm a music producer. Me and Kamerie have been close and been friends for a little bit of time now. So I think it's important that we have this conversation, and I think it's important that we continue to support this platform because in our communities, I don't think it's spoken about enough. And I mean, if it is, somebody send me a link somewhere and like put me on game. But other than that, I'm gonna be giving y'all the real. So pleasure to be here.
So, Z, I wanted to just give some people some context on how we connected with one another. For those in the audience who don't know about the Gathering Spot is a private membership club for different professionals, entrepreneurs, creatives to socialize, connect, and network with one another. So I know the Gathering Spot has multiple locations, and I'm a founding member at the Los Angeles office location off of Adams and La Brea, which is where I met Z. Can you go ahead and talk about the Gathering Spot and how you got connected with the place?
Yeah. So the Gathering Spot was founded during the Trayvon Martin trial. And during the Trayvon Martin trial, Ryan and TK, who went to college together, they were finding it hard or just a little bit difficult to find places where we could gather together and be safe and have these pertinent conversations about what's going on in our neighborhoods and how to fight back on the justice system and just kind of, justice reform and all of these different things, prison reform, and so many different topics that were like, at the heart of what we do in our communities and how it affects us. So they thought it would have been a good idea to kind of come up with this private membership as kind of like country club. And originally it was called The Spot. And, with The Spot, they was like, okay, it appeals to us. It sounds very catchy and fluid, but it doesn't really appeal to corporate America. So then that's when they implemented the gathering part of it, because essentially that's all we're doing is gathering and creating space for one another to express ourselves and be who we are unapologetically. So there breeds the Gathering Spot, which originated in Atlanta, and then they got their second location a few years after in Washington, D.C., a couple blocks from the White House. And now we are at the helm of their third location, which is here in Los Angeles, my hometown. So it was a no-brainer for me to get involved. I was following Ryan's journey for a little bit. I wasn't too familiar with TK in the very beginning, but I knew it was finance and it was law. So I'm like, with two titans of different different fields that have so much know-how and so much power, it was only right that they kind of like spearheaded into this industry and kind of start with this trailblazing like young entrepreneurship kind of aspect. And it was all kind of inclusive. We wanted to make sure we was being heard by politicians as well as entertainers, as well as activists, as well as sports athletes. So it was so many different things, that was kind of pushing us in this direction. So
he spoke. I remember just looking at him and being like, yo, like, I'm not that smart, but bro, you're not that either. Like, and so we got to compete now. Like it just, because I was kind of sitting in the room like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna really be able to. I was a good student in high school, but like, am I gonna be able to bring it on this level? And I remember just hearing him and being like, nah, like my parents and grandparents, like they didn't send me up here to play small with this. Like I can't go out being a punk. That's how I felt about it.
So with LA being the mecca that it is, and like the melting pot, we still working through some kinks on our end, but I think we've been received very well, and the membership numbers have been going up. And yes, me and Kamerie have been close in contact ever since we sat down that very first time. And if you guys don't know too much about Kamerie, she is just, a powerhouse. She has tons of things to offer in our community, tons of things to offer for young women of color and just underrepresented women out there in this space. And I always lend ears to people that are very heartfelt and passionate about what they do, because we get a lot of different members from all different walks of life. So I try to kind of keep my ears open and kind of, zero in on the people that's on that same playing field as myself, which is kind of like trying to push forward the agenda of Black creatives and brown creatives and people that look like us to be in certain spaces. So it ain't been nothing but a pleasure, and I'm happy we having this conversation because it's been overdue, honestly, but I know she got an audience, and I'm ready to see what feedback we get from this episode.
Yes. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for saying that and just for elaborating on the gathering spot. So I just want to go back to the beginning when we first met, and it's really important that I talk about it because I tell other people that I bring into the gathering spot that you're the one that really made me feel a desire to come back to the gathering spot. I felt like, okay, somebody actually cares that I'm here. Somebody actually knows my name. Somebody actually asked me what I'm doing, what I'm working on. And I remember we talked about just people feeling like people aren't really like who they truly say they are. And being from LA, how it's easy to like kind of discern who's really like doing something and who's just pretending to be doing something. So I just wanted to acknowledge you and how we don't always know how much our presence and our words, can impact someone. But yeah, just having the conversation with you, I felt seen, which is important to feel seen, especially at a space like that. So thank you for being yourself, and talking to me and just being like that with everybody there. You definitely go above and beyond as far as being personable with people is concerned.
And sometimes I pry a little bit. So I think on the cusp of it is me just being curious, that inner child. So, sometimes I see members with a certain look on their face, or they got a certain aura around them that day, or maybe they walking in with a certain energy. And I think it was a matter of like you being down on yourself because of something personal you was dealing with. And I remember it being like a male that maybe wasn't giving you what you needed at that point in time, or maybe he didn't see a word and like you felt like you was giving more than you was receiving. And that led to the conversation of like how we both was brought up and how men don't necessarily know how to dissect their feelings and all different things that kind of led to like just kind of like it felt like meaningless pain. Like, you know what I mean? Like you putting me through something inadvertently because you subconsciously don't know how to handle it and deal with it yourself. You know what I mean? So us as men, we have a lot of work to do, and it starts with these conversations. It starts with acknowledging how women feel and also being able to enable them to do what they want to do fully and wholeheartedly. Because a lot of the times we feel like, we wear the crown and then you wear your crown, but you're not necessarily like we don't see each other as counterparts all the time. And there's this dominance complex that people feel like, women have to adhere to whatever a man's needs are, or women have to be the nurturers, or like, you know what I mean? But it comes to a point in time where we got to look in the mirror and say, hey, how about we take the time and do our due diligence to nurture ourselves first, so that way that occupancy isn't so big. You know what I mean? Like you shouldn't have to put aside your dreams and wishes and beliefs for the sake of your love for someone. You know what I'm saying? Whether that be man, non-binary, woman, whatever the case is. I think it's important that people have more discussions like this when it's pertinent. Like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of the times we like to avoid those tough conversations, or we like to bypass it or put it on the back burner. But it's like if there's something that's going to directly affect how you perceived in the world, or like what's going to make you a better human being at the end of the day, I'm thinking that's something that should be at the top of the list as far as priorities. But we do a lot of self-reflection and we do a lot of stuff once it's too late. Like, you know what I mean? We seek that help. We try to go get the therapist, or we go try to speak to a shrink, but that's already like post. We need to start working on more pre, like, you know what I mean? Like having those things in place to where we don't have to go down that long, dark, lonely road of, narcissism or selfishness, or, you know what I mean? Like carelessness, all these different things that we think are normal. You know what I mean? Men, we don't really have a playbook. You know what I mean? We kind of like, they always say boys will be boys, and we all kind of feed off that energy. And it's the toxic masculinity that's been overshadowed by, oh, that's just a man gonna do what a man gonna do type of thing. And that's not necessarily true, because the more we tap into our femininity, the more we closer to God, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because even though the woman was made in the image of a man, without a woman, like James Brown said, it's a man's world, but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman or a girl. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think he had the right idea. He might have could have got the message across a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I think he was on to something. You know what I mean? So it's important that we have these conversations. So I was delighted to kind of like intrude a little bit. I don't know if you considered it that at that time, but just getting to know someone on a real basis, because I can always get to know you just in the light of, oh yeah, I got work to do, I'm busy, but that's just surface level, and I've never been very surface at all. So I always be trying to go deeper and try to see what the real root of something is, and like, you know, what could have prevented this, or what's the catalyst? Like, what does this turn into? What does this look like if you don't get the proper, you know, care or attention? So I think what you're doing is very important. You know what I mean? You speaking for a lot of girls who are underrepresented and ain't feeling too heard, or maybe they are feeling heard, or maybe they feeling things aren't being implemented, or if they are being implemented, maybe it's not happening at a pace where it would with a male. And this is America. This is what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But I think a lot of people try to play this cover-up game and making it seem like everything's all good and dandy for the sake of like not wanting to be deemed a crazy black girl, or not wanting to be deemed the psycho ex-girlfriend, or whatever the case may be. Like, we put so many labels on people and we pass judgment without really fully knowing the core of what's going on.
Man, Z, like that's literally that right there is what told me that you were different and that your mind was somewhere else, even though we were at the gathering spot. And I know I felt that you were spiritual and you just knew things that other people didn't want to tap into. Can you talk about where you got that perspective from, though?
Um, from women, you know what I mean? Like, I grew up, my mother, she passed away as I was born. So I was a ward of the state until my sister was able to get custody of me, and she was my legal guardian. So it started with my big sister. Shout out Kim. So Kim, she's the oldest of four, so she had to raise all of us, herself included, and she was learning along the way, and she had to muscle up enough courage and strength to tap into, like, you know, just that what we call unconditional love. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the love be coming with conditions. Let's keep it 100. But with family, sometimes you get those blessings in disguise. So as her being very hard and very stern and very adamant about her rules and regulations within the household, I looked at it as my sister a bitch, or my sister a prude, or my sister uptight, or but in reality, it was shaping and molding me into something that I had never knew I could have even been. And you know what I mean? And I've achieved things that I never thought I could have as well. But that's also, like I said, tapping into that femininity. Because if I would have been listening to my big bros, which I did for a shorter period of time, I'd be in the gangs and the jail system. And, you know, I went that path as well. But it was those reoccurring lessons where I had to kind of think back to myself and say, hey, half of the stuff my sister was telling me was only for the greater good. Like, she would never tell me something wrong. You know what I mean? So it was just perspective on how I was viewing it. And that also comes with maturity. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't mature enough to receive the information the right way. Like, I was receiving it, but I wasn't receiving it the way it was supposed to be received. So I've been grateful for the work that she's done, and this kind of like the roles the women in my life have played. And without them, I'm telling you, I wouldn't be in good shape.
Yeah, no, for real. I'm that big sister, so I know my brothers. They mad at me. They hate that I make them read books. They hate all that, but they're gonna remember me that my sister was big on education, that my sister was, tough. My sister wasn't playing no games when it came to knowing how to do things, outside of your parents. So I wanted to ask you, how did growing up in LA, you grew up in South Central. Is it considered South Central? Okay,
Yeah.
so just like me, we grew up in South Central. How did that shape your identity as a man when you left, when you became 18, became an adult?
Well, to be totally fair, uh, the streets raise you. You know what I mean? So I looked at adulthood as like early on as like 15, 16. Like, I was already kind of having to fend for myself, make ends meet myself, make sure I had my responsibilities taken care of. So I was very much independent at a very young age. Although I had proper guidance, it was also instilled in me that, ain't nobody gonna give you no handouts. Ain't nobody gonna do shit for you. You know what I'm saying? And if you fall down, brush yourself off and get back up. You know what I mean? It's just one of them. Like, my family never sugarcoated anything. They never coddled me. They never babied me. And they got me prepared for the real world, the real way. So the streets played a role in that, just based on the fact that I was outside 9 times out of 10, because I was more hesitant to get information from loved ones. I more so wanted to seek it elsewhere, and that was just me being hard-headed. That was just me being misinformed. So for the most part, I was running around doing all type of stuff, and led me to different understandings of what life is actually meant. So I wouldn't take anything back if I could do it all over again, but I definitely I probably would pay closer attention to the signs.
How would you define manhood today?
That's a good question. Hold on.
I like your jacket too. It looks very like clean.
I would describe it as
But hold on, wait till you're settled.
being vulnerable.
Wait.
No, I am.
Okay, good. Yeah, go ahead now.
I would describe it today for me as being vulnerable. I think I take pride in loving harder, being more how could I say it? Being more observant. You know what I mean? Like just kind of also putting my ego aside. Like putting my ego aside to me is manhood, because boys behave a certain way and men behave different. And we can say we a man, and we can say we doing all these things, but the proof is in the pudding. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to show me. So it's like you're still making we all make mistakes, but if you're still being irresponsible, you're still being careless, you're still being lazy with your love, you're still being unattentive, you aren't going to be able to spark joy in no one else. You know what I mean? Because it comes from within. Like the love for self comes from with hard work, and all men. It's like you ain't became a man until you hit rock bottom and had to build yourself back up. And I strongly believe in that. Like if you ain't fully had to break down, cry, scream, yell, pray, all that different stuff, and ashes and ashes, dust to dust, and like the phoenix, it rise up. If you ain't went through that, it's hard to kind of deem yourself a real man. You know what I mean? Because it's like it's those trials and tribulations that help us kind of catapult into that next step or that next stage in life. So I strongly believe in struggle. I strongly believe in because there's power in that pain. Like, you know what I mean? A lot of people that's going through stuff out here, like they don't know, which way is up. They trying to navigate through the world. They think, everything's on their shoulders. And it's just one of them things to where it's like, I fully believe in God, and, he gives the test to his strongest soldiers. But it's like, you ain't a boy soldier. You got to be an adult soldier. So that comes with time, and that comes with wisdom, and that comes with strength, but not physical strength. You know what I mean? That comes from within. So a lot of people ain't even tapped in on a spiritual level, like you spoke on earlier. And yeah, I think that kind of can create the measure of a man. Like you got to be a man of your word, and like you can't be a man of your word if you don't have the knowledge of what you're even speaking on. So you definitely got to. I think you got to go through the ups and the downs for sure.
Oh my gosh, you dropping gems in like a short amount of time too. This is gonna be good. It's one of my favorite ones. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Okay.
And you just going straight. I know we got a few minutes left.
You cannot get it back, but there are ways you can repair it. I'm excited about
what has been the biggest lesson in love that you've learned up until this point?
The biggest lesson in love that I've learned is that I don't know love at all. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the love we receive, we kind of mirror it and try to implement it into our lives. But if you come from dysfunction, you didn't really even get the proper love. So your idea of love or your perspective is a little skewed because you ain't necessarily received it in its totality, in its full form. You know what I mean? I've gotten excerpts, like bits and pieces of love, or I've gotten a glimpse of love, or I've gotten a version of love. But that undisputed love, that's something that I've yet to receive, and I had to give that to myself first. And I don't blame nobody for it. You know what I mean? I'm not harboring any feelings, or it's nobody to point fingers at. It's just more so that was my personal journey. And yeah, I think I still got a lot to learn. You know what I mean? Because it's like we throw that word around so loosely, and we feel like we have this idea, but love is not a subject. Love is like water. It should has no confines. It should have no bound. Like love flows like the ocean. You know what I mean? So until you can get to that love, you only know just kind of a fraction of what love is.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, find my love. I be trying to make it look certain ways. I be trying to like make it fit in certain boxes, but that's not what love is. You know what I mean? That's our selfish, ego-driven version of it. You know what I mean? Like we all be trying to be self-serving, and love ain't self-serving. You know what I mean? Love is a very selfless thing. You feel me? Love is me giving you however much to fund whatever without wanting nothing in return, without even, you know what I mean, thinking nothing of it, just because the betterment of you is important to, you know, me in a certain capacity. Like it's just love is it's not even gestures, you know what I mean? It's more so just like the unsaid, like the stuff that you don't say, you know what I mean? The stuff that it's like it's just reciprocated, you know what I mean? And like and love is one of them things that like if you operate out of love, it's like you closer to God because God is love. You know what I mean? And I have a strong relationship with Him, so it's like that's why I said I'm still learning. You know what I mean? I'm getting there.
Okay. And what would you tell the younger Z?
I always tell the younger Z like forgive yourself for sure. Be patient with yourself, and just never stop like seeking. You know what I mean? Because like what they say, when there's a will, there's a way. If you seek, you shall find. Like just always be a student, always be that sponge. You know what I mean? Because it's like now I kind of funnel what information I get and how I get it. But just being that open-minded, curious kid that I once was, just keep that. You know what I mean? Keep that and just probably slow down a little bit because we always want that instant gratification when we're younger. We want to be 18 so we can be in a club. We want to be 21 so we can be driving with our license. We want to be 30 so we can own our own house. Like we want things at a certain timeline, and it's always based on something that may not be suitable for us. You know what I mean? So I would just tell my younger self, just be patient and, you know, be committed like I was, but just be patient for sure.
Final question. For the generations after you to come, what's some advice you would give them?
Leave no stone unturned. You know what I mean? Don't take anything for face value. Always push the envelope. Always be a disruptor. You know what I mean? When everybody going right, go left. When everybody say the sky is blue, say what shade of blue, what hue. You know what I mean? Like just kind of make sure that the unknown. Just keep looking for the unknown. You know what I mean? Keep being a trailblazer. That's my thing. Like just come up with something that's going to be groundbreaking. Come up with something that's going to change the world. Come up with something that's going to help us all. You know what I mean? Because the world is no longer ours. You know what I mean? Once we pass and dead and gone, it's in the next generation's hands. So as long as we pass on along that hunger for more, or you know what I mean, that willingness to learn, I think that's the most important thing.